Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me?
Chicken.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk glamour to you. You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Survivor Oz, Australia's #1 TV and film podcast, as we come to you for another Oztopsy live and direct from Hobart. We're about 17 minutes late. Oh, well, it's better late than never. You might be saying, oh, blood and damnation at how late we are, but you can shut up, Dan, and just listen to the episode instead. Joining us on the line, I have three beautiful, sexy, and gorgeous male Ozlets who are all willing to talk about easily the best episode so far of this season, including a man who I just get excited for the fact that he's back. He's like Slim Shady, but not Blondie anymore. Cable Brandon. Cable. I don't know where I was going with that.
No, so you've seen the old photos, but from back in the day.
Yeah, I do remember that very Eminem photo you have on
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I just want to quickly say something that I thought might be sort of funny and relevant.
Uh-oh.
In preparation for this Oztopsy, I get my notepad out like you do, Ben, and write notes, and I put up the top, I put up a little grid, and so I can do everyone's confessionals. And I'm written the names down: Jen, Shireen, Will, Mike, Dan, Carolyn, Tyler, Rod. And I'm like, hang on, there's one more. And I seriously, for 5 minutes, couldn't work out who the ninth member was, and it was actually Sierra.
Who?
And that, yeah, exactly. And she actually got a confessional this week too. So, but I was like, that is so funny because Ben will think that is amusing because for 5 minutes to rack my brain and think who the hell else is out there. Yeah. Anyway,
as Rupert would say, who the hell is Sierra? And how did you spell Shireen, by the way, Cable? Did you spell it like Rodney did? Shareen?
In fairness to him, he spelt it well for how you would say
Shireen,
it. But
yeah.
So he spelled it how you would say it. So that was not as bad as probably something like Sue Hawk would spell.
Yes, we won't get into that. Noah Groves is back. Hello, Noah. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, you'd think it's a bit of a cardinal sin to ask someone on Survivor how you spell their name. That's a bit of a deck giveaway, isn't it?
Excuse me, Shireen, how do you spell your name? Just
I'm just doing a roll call. Like, what do you do there? Band meeting. Like, how do you get away with that? But yeah, and you mentioned damnation. I was like, why did you not say damnation? And that could be the hashtag damnation. I was disappointed with that.
No, the hashtag is hashtag Trader Jeffs.
We'll get to that. I was not amused by that.
You know, just jumping the gun a little bit here when I say this, like, in a season where I think we've had more blurring of mouths and swearing than any other season in the history of Survivor, for Dan to then drop, oh, blood and damnation, I thought was like, well, clearly everybody else is saying, oh, fucking shit, like every 3 seconds, so... Anyway, speaking of fucking shit, it's Jared Lubeek. Jared, welcome back to Survivor Oz.
Thank you for that lovely introduction.
You're most welcome. You sounded very much like Alex Morello there. You're like, oh, thank you. How are you, Jared? You doing well? How's Emu Plains? Did you get flooded at all in the last few days?
No, we haven't. It's all been good. I am headed up to Newcastle on the weekend, so I mean that'll be interesting.
Why?
Hopefully the hotel's still there.
Why would you go to Newcastle voluntarily?
Because the old castle's not there anymore.
Oh, an engagement party. Oh, okay. Well, we don't want to talk about that, clearly. Your engagement party, Jared?
No.
Oh,
Well, I wish Alex
believe it?
invited us to him and Nadine's engagement party. Why did Jared get invited?
Well, true.
Not fair.
Yeah. Cable, have you had your engagement party yet?
What are you talking about?
Sorry, baby shower? Anyway. What are we talking about? Worlds Apart episode...
Normal shower?
Can we get invited to your normal shower, Cable? Catherine just said you had a dad joke, Noah. And hello to Catherine, by the way, and hello to all our viewers watching us live. Catherine, Brendan, Dylan, and visitors back. Good on you, visitor. Episode 10, Worlds Apart, as I said at the top, probably the easily best episode of this season. Jared, you'd have to agree with that, surely.
I don't know how I feel about this episode. I think it's kind of an episode that I need to sleep on. I think a lot happened, which was great, but it was lots of negativity and just, I don't know, it kind of sits a bit weird.
Sits a bit weird. Did you say sleep on or sleep with the episode?
Sleep on.
Right. Okay, maybe I was thinking that's how you get to like things. I don't know. That was a bit mean. Okay, well you...
Yeah, because if he sleeps with it tonight, he might love it in the morning.
Hey, that's how I fell in love with Louise. Noah, what did you think of this episode?
I haven't been too kind on this season. I don't hate the season, but I thought this was the best episode. There was just, in episode 3, there was just nothing to dive into. There was no substance to it, nothing to talk about. But then this week we've got, we could do a 4-hour podcast. We're not going to do a 4-hour podcast, but we could, because there's just so much depth in this episode and so many different angles and alternatives. I agree with Jared. Some of the bit, like the domestic violence, was a bit bit off. But normally I'm not a fan of fighting, as in like the episode 3 fighting, but some of these arguments were pretty entertaining. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed the episode.
Pleasing Dylan there by at least 2 references to episode 3.
Hashtag I'm an arsehole.
Yes, you are. Cable, episode 3 or 10, talk about either. Impress Dylan.
No, I have to agree with what you said. I think even halfway through the episode, I definitely was loving it. I've been waiting. I feel I've been waiting patiently for the whole season. I felt like there was something around the corner, and it was going to be kind of epic. And I think this episode was. The only thing that probably let it down, and I know we'll get to it, but I was kind of hoping there'd be a really good blindside or an idle play or something to switch it up tonight, just to put the cherry on top.
I like cherries. Actually, I don't really. Don't know why I said that. I like Dr. Pepper, but
yes, Dr. Pepper's good.
I'd like cherries if they didn't have the pips in them. The pips.
Yeah.
How much is pip in it?
Bloody pips. What was interesting about this episode was that we got them back from Tribal. We didn't really see that. We kind of straight to the next day where Rodney's on the beach talking to his secret alliance. Mike just happens to be there. And then within a couple of seconds, we're already into a challenge. And where were we, Noah? We were at Trader Jeff's. Before we get to Trader Jeff's quickly, this whole scene, this whole situation with Rodney and then Mike listening in his self-made invisible, well, not really, spy shack. What was your take on that, Noah Groves?
This is definitely not Mike's fault. It's good play by Mike to listen in, but I'm getting so sick of listening in. Kind of takes the fun out of Survivor, doesn't it? That people just listening into everything, so any plan made is just spoiled. Yeah, it's not a deterrent to Mike because he was doing what's best for his game, but yeah, the Spy Shack was fun, but when one player knows everything just because they overhear things, it gets a bit old. And on the Trader Jeff's, I thought that was hilarious when it first came up, but then they had to come up with a hashtag on screen. The joke was funny, but not when you reference the joke 10 seconds later. That destroys the entire joke. So I did like Trader Jeff's, but the frickin' hashtag ruined them.
I thought it was something different. I didn't think it was an auction straight away. I thought it was going to be hey, you can trade
the rice and the flint.
Yeah, I don't know.
Drew Christie should have guest starred this one. Survivor Wednesday, Drew Christie starts. CBS.
And he just starts, like, you know, calling everyone bitches and getting him out. Cable, what was your take on the whole Mike listening in straight into Trader Jeff's?
Yeah, I was a bit curious to the angle of where he was standing and kind of where the cameraman would have had to have been. That surely should have been obvious to the other four. But, yeah, look, it's a smart play by Mike. He sees four of them around. He just goes around the corner a bit. And Rodney's quite loud too. That's the other thing. Like, how they can't be a little bit more discreet and I don't know, again, less obvious. But Mike's played well in that as soon at the crack of dawn, when everyone else is sort of up talking, or when even that time when Joe and Tyler went looking, with the idol clue, Mike just, had his wits about him to get up, follow him down the path, and keep tabs on everything. So look, all well played by Mike, but not well played by the other four being discreet or at least keeping their voice down.
For somebody who's so shocked that he's been perceived as a threat, he's not doing a very good job at trying to stop being a threat so openly, isn't he?
Well, I agree. That was the one thing when he said, he's about, I think I'm a threat or something like, are you kidding me? Of course you were going to be the next in line after Joe was gone, but we'll get to that, I'm sure, later when we talk a bit more in depth about Mike.
Jared, would you take a visit to Trader Jeff's?
I would. I didn't mind Trader Jeff's. I thought it was a good setup. I did like to see sort of the little purple rock on the shelf. I thought that was a nice touch. Yeah, I think they need to revamp the auction, and they did a good job of doing that.
I thought it was great. Like, I loved the first one. Like, I thought that was clever. Like, everyone bidding on it. Poor Will gets it. Gets a little note. You've been evicted from the auction. Piss off back to camp.
That was like Bob Crowley reminiscent when he had to go to Exile Island. I felt bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, I like that, Jared, like reinventing the auction. It's like the Madonna auction. Like, changed it.
I feel like, well, Jared's right, the aesthetics of it. I feel like the auction has been ruined forever. The auction will never be the same. We'll never have just a fun auction, people buying spa baths and ice creams. From Kagayaan onwards, the auction will be only about the advantage, and it won't be anything to do with food or anything. I used to love the auctions. The auctions have become too game-botty, as people like to say online.
It's a good point too, because they just gelled quickly over the food, didn't they? Like that.
Yeah, with a mic voiceover.
Oh, that was I wanted to mention that because of the way they eat. I mean, it just basically the first 10 minutes of it wasn't Survivor. It was Mike Ivor, like MacGyver. Hey, but it was just and I agree. Like the auction has always been my favourite challenge, and the best bit is just seeing the food and people get their panties wet over like a big bowl of chicken and waffles and we gelled over what do we get that one little bit from Rodney that's a steak and Jen's margarita, which I thought she was going to go swimming in it, that was fucking massive.
Oh, that was huge.
You know what we needed? We needed Jan going beer, margarita.
There was no dud items either, other than Will's extremely harsh one.
I know, it's always good when you get a bowl of bat wings or something and James is there to eat it.
Yeah, need more dud items.
So they could have had Drew Christie as a reward then.
Well, actually, they probably did have some items because they glossed over. I'm sure they edited a huge chunk out of it.
I think they do. I think that's come out in a lot of interviews and that auctions are obviously a lot longer, and there are items that you just never get to see. And we saw that with Mike's little package of talking over the whole thing. But certain thing happened in the auction. Besides Will obviously getting sent back to camp, we get the whole letters situation, and obviously Jeff had asked who's he's going for the advantage, and then we get the letter situation. Shireen, I thought that was quite clever that she did that. Past seasons, usually the highest bid people, Jeff would do it. So we saw that the highest bid was $20, and then of course everybody goes to bid, and then they go up. They go to get it. Mike's obviously really wanting that advantage. He's hanging back, and then he turns around and doesn't take his letter. Cable, I'm going to start with you in the conversation. What are your thoughts on what Mike did there?
I'll just go quickly one step back in regards to the auctions and what Noah sort of said as well. I have to agree. I think the auctions, we as an audience have always loved them, but it's got to that point where it's just ridiculous that they all hang out and keep their $500 for an advantage. Take away the advantage. Just have Jeff go, there's no advantage. This is all food, or maybe there's something, but just don't.
Don't tell them.
Maybe
don't tell them. Make them hang around, think there's going to be one, and then close the auction off. Stiff shit, you didn't get it. Fix your shocks. Go off with Tarzan.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know how they say it without saying it, but I think they just need to take it away, and because I think everyone's too self-aware. Like you said, Shireen saying, for $20, we'll all get him. Jeff should have put his foot down and go, no, just because that's been done in past seasons, who said it's going to, be a bit, he should have been a bit of an arsehole, I reckon. I don't know. Anyways, with the mic thing, I actually thought as soon as he sort of said to Dan, he said, oh, no, you go. And Dan was like, are you sure? Oh, you better do it. I knew Mike was going to try and pull a Swiftie. And did you notice how Jeff goes, oh, you let it, and then he even Jeff cut himself off, thinking, oh, no, I've got to let this play out. I've got to let it play out. And then I'm glad they sort of had a go at him for it, because he deserved it.
It was great. Like, I wouldn't say I was expecting him to do it. I mean, the way they were focusing on him, and I kind of got an inkling he was going to do it when he was hanging back the way he was. But like as Catherine points out in the chat on our Spreecast one here, I mean that's when Mike lost his alliance, and I'd have to say agree, because like, yeah, okay, you could argue, well, he then went and got his letter, but the damage is already done by that point. We saw Carolyn's reaction, we saw Sierra's reaction, we saw Rodney just kind of like going, yep, that's why we need to get rid of him. I mean, Jared, at that one instant, like if Mike doesn't win this game, could this be that one moment where he just threw it all away?
I think it will be very telling. I do think, though, it was a bit stupid. His whole like, oh no, my integrity, I can't do it. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, no, it's because everybody's just gone off at you, and you're trying to sort of backpedal and sort of save face here that you're now going to go and buy it. And it was interesting, even with the whole like Carolyn, I don't want it now. It would have been interesting to see if Jeff would have let her trade it back for her money, because technically, like, she'd already brought it. So.
I was expecting Jeff to say, no, the transaction's done, and then that would have actually blown up if Mike hadn't have come back.
Yeah. Noah, I know you've got a lot to say on this.
That's where Survivor really needs a dun dun dun, because that like
the Law and Order, like dun dun.
Yeah, I was like, someone needs to re-edit that scene with humorous, dramatic music, but. Yeah, I was watching this and there was no one home, and I don't normally do this with TV shows, but I actually let out a, oh no, like, I felt like a bit of a moron.
We need to Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. But it was just an involuntary, oh no, because it was like, I can't believe this is happening. It was a terrible move, but it's probably my favourite moment of the season, just because it's like, oh, this is actually happening. He's actually going to turn away and not take it and just turn on everyone. And I loved Dan's reaction and so much for the trust and all that, and Carolyn's, oh hell no, when she
I think there was a few F-bombs in between that.
Yeah, but I completely agree with what everyone said and Catherine said in the comments, that if Mike doesn't turn his back there, Carolyn goes home this episode. Like, I think the core four, Rodney's four, the Boston four, whatever you want to call them, they had already split off and were going to target Mike eventually. But I don't think Dan and Sierra were completely sold on it. And obviously there's a lot we didn't see, but I truly believe that move is the thing that really switched them. And for the record, and we'll talk about it later, I still think Mike will be the winner of this season. I still think he can come back from this. But if he doesn't win, like you said, then this will be the moment that he lost the game. And if he does win, this will be the moment that kind of prevents him from being maybe a top 10 winner. Obviously, we've got a lot more game to see before we can make that determination. But, yeah, he is a level-headed player, but this was a terrible move. And I think he realised his mistake, so he got up and said, Alright, I'll take the loved ones thing. So, yeah.
Socially, it was a terrible... pretend he had have not changed his mind. Socially, terrible. Either way, what he did there, because he'd already dug himself a hole. Strategically, though, had he stuck to his guns, kept his money, and obviously he would have won the advantage. I mean, Noah, strategically, though, how would have you ranked that had he just kept to his initial decision?
I still think that's a bad move, because social is strategic, if that makes any sense. But, in saying that, he didn't know what the advantage would be. But because the advantage was his 2-vote business, he could have actually maybe swung it around if he had stuck to his guns, but he would have a lot of trouble getting to the end and getting votes if he had stuck to it. So even though I think he made a huge mistake, I do think he did the best he could do with that mistake in trying to fix it. But a lot of damage was already done. So yeah, I don't think it would be a great move if he stuck with what he was going to do.
Cable?
Yeah, I thought you were going to go to Jared then.
He's last. Yeah, Jared's always last. Yeah. Come on.
But I did notice, even before, when they sort of looked at each other and Carolyn's like, is this a deal? Like, I understand deals and promises in Survivor get broken, but I think in that scenario, in that challenge, in front of Jeff, in a group setting, when you make a promise and you say, yeah, we're doing it all together for $20, and then we can go for this thing, I could tell even then that, and again, this comes back to production being awesome at having the cameras on the right people at the right time, or I had a feeling Mike was not comfortable with that decision, even though he said yes. Yeah. And he was clearly, and I agree. I think on one hand, if he was going to be ruthless there, he sticks to his gun, he wins the extra vote, and then all of a sudden, if he thought he was in trouble like he was tonight, he would have had that extra vote, and that might have flipped it. But, he didn't go down that path, and but he's socially, I think he's fucked himself up a lot. So, yeah, he's got a bit to fight back now, I think.
Jared?
I mean, it is hard to say. I mean, he won immunity tonight, which obviously he didn't know at the time, but he was going to be safe anyway tonight, no matter what. To then have a double vote and a hidden immunity idol would have been a lot of power. And, I mean, all he needed to do was sort of keep a few allies or buy a few allies back. I think it just really depends if he really has lost Sierra and Dan or not. I can see Dan sort of swinging back to him, so I think it just kind of depends on those two. I mean, if they were already lost, then it wouldn't have mattered if he'd changed his mind or not.
It's fascinating. It was just like, I mean, it was great TV, however it was, and it kind of, like, the whole situation, like as you were saying, Cable, that if you're in a situation like that, and I mean, it's kind of, it reminds me kind of in a way of Penna in Philippines, how he didn't go along with the alliance. Like, yeah, Survivor sometimes is a game where you're not going to agree with the decision, but if the majority right in front of you is offering you something, you don't say no, generally, because that's usual suicide in a game like Survivor. So, I guess kind of, is it the pressure of the game that's getting to Mark? I mean, is it his personality? Because, it's surely you've got to understand to win this game that you've got to do things sometimes to please people in order to keep yourself in a good position. And for that moment to solely have so many people, and I think I agree with you, Noah, that had he not done that, yeah, Carolyn more than likely would have gone home, because I don't think Dan and Sierra would have turned against him the way they did. So it was great. It was a great moment, and it could be a turning point for this season. And obviously, all this Rodney Mike stuff that has slowly been simmering under the surface is really starting to come through now. We then got the advantage. We saw that, you alluded to that before. I think Noah was you about the 2-vote situation. We had Carolyn, Dan, and Mike all going for it. They did the rocks. Now, were we all thinking that Mike was clearly going to get this advantage still?
Yeah, I thought for sure, based on the editing with the voiceovers and all that.
Dan gave us his continued best Austin Powers impersonation with his "Yeah, baby" when he won it. But then we'll talk about the 2-vote advantage very shortly, because I think we need a separate section to talk about that. But then we get, before we get to this whole drama back at camp with Mike and the Clue and Rodney situation, we should mention Will. back at camp, gets sent there. I was honestly thinking, because we had all those envelopes, we had all the family things, and I honestly thought that Manif was going to be at camp. I thought Will's wife was going to be there. And I don't know if anybody else is thinking that, because he was like, oh, and I got back to camp and there was a surprise waiting for me. And I'm thinking like, well, do you know how they do that sort of reverse trickery or something? Anybody think that, or is that just me?
Yeah.
I thought
you thought that, Jared? It wasn't just me?
I thought it was an idle clue.
Yeah, so I agree with Noah.
Because they didn't have the idle clue, so I'm like, are they really going to give up idle clues? They love idle clues.
But then when it had the map and it had an actual X and he followed it and there was an actual stake in the ground, I'm like, do they think he's that stupid he can't find the idol?
Why did they hide it? Why did they hide the S key? Like, what is the purpose?
Rupert's watching at home going, damn it!
That would be hilarious if it was an idol when there was a map with a trail to it and a stick in the ground.
Dig,
but
yeah.
I agree with Noah. Like, in the end, why did it have to be... Oh, I guess it had to be hidden because if he wanted to keep it for himself, but still...
No, but he had time before the auction was over to hide it if he wanted to.
Well, what, he's going to dig a hole?
Good point, I guess. But I think it should have been an idle clue because, yeah, this whole business caused some drama with Will, but I love the idea that you get booted from the auction, but you go back to camp and there's an idle clue there, and everyone else thinks you've been sitting at camp collecting firewood or something, and they would have zero idea. They would never even guess it. So I think they should have went with the idle clue.
It's interesting. I think as soon as he got kicked out, I knew that, there had to be something waiting for him. Like, generally Survivor has a way of doing that, doesn't it? Like, you get a shit situation, and for the most part, you get some sort of positiveness out of it, so... Possibly. But the food, what do we have? We had, like, some trail mix. We had some beef jerky. Hello, Kel Gleason.
Yeah.
And what was it? Some electrolyte mix? So
Gatorade.
Right, okay, that's good. I'm
surprised they didn't go Gatorade. Jeff.
And then Kel's watching at home, like going, "You're kidding me!"
That's how I hid my beef jerky.
Damn it!
Kel Gleason, Naonka Mixon, and Julie from last season are all having a viewing party tonight.
And Jerry Manthe's watching it going, I swear I saw Will put a piece of jerky in his mouth.
Yeah, and then Tyler's going through the bag next week.
Yay,
throwing out back all over again.
Completely going through it.
Where's the beef jerky?
Yes.
But didn't Will smush it up? Like, it's just a bit of leaf that he smushed up under his gum.
Yeah, and I actually
we
heard
joke
jerky
about
was
that,
code. He just wanted to go masturbate a lot in the bushes.
We joke about that, but the whole reason the fight started was because they were claiming that he was hiding food. So maybe he was hiding beef jerky as a Kel Gleason tribute.
Yeah, I reckon. And then like next week you're gonna have like Carolyn going, I saw a cow put a bit of jerky.
Cow.
Oh, cow. No, Cow's up there with Kate. It's like one of the all-time greatest contestants. Then we get our sort of first real, like, heated argument. Mike went... did he go from bad to worse here, or was this a redeeming thing that he was trying to do, Cable? Mike sort of explaining the whole situation, which then led to the whole Rodney blow-up. And I really agree with Rodney. When, like, Mike's calling... Like, fair enough, Mike's calling him out. He overheard them. He's saying what he heard. But then Rodney, exactly right. He's like, well, who did I flip on? Like, I haven't flipped on anyone yet. So, Cable, the whole situation, what was your take on it?
Again, I thought it was a bad move. I think it was almost like sour grapes. I think, obviously, he looked bad at the auction. He's trying to think, how can I get people back on side? I've got to deflect the blame to somebody else and say, this is the reason I've done it. And you know what? Maybe that was the reason he did do it. But to sort of call them out, and you're right, no one's flipped as of yet. They've just a tight 4. And I think it was the first sign that of Mike realising he wasn't in control of this game and he was potentially on the wrong end of the numbers. And to me, it was a bit of a panic move. It was... I think poor timing. And like Sierra even said, look, we just want to read our letters. And then he apologised again. But I'm like, you're going from bad for worse, mate. Like, it was. Yeah, I don't know. Look, but then having said that, I think Rodney went a bit off the handle a little bit too, though.
I liked how he got up and he was full on like losing his shit. Then you see like Will kind of grab him. Then he sits down, and then I loved his confessional where he's like, "I won't go tip tap toe with Mike. This is Survivor. I got to use my mind." I don't know. I just love that Rodney. I just love Rodney. I just need to point out that every 5 seconds.
But having said that, like he's made a bad mistake at the auction. For Mike to actually try and deflect the blame or the trust issues on him, and then go, "Fuck, how am I going to get Dan, Serene, Sierra, everyone back on side? I'm going to throw Rodney under the bus." It was actually quite a smart move too. It's just the timing of it wasn't good. He should have maybe waited till after letters, have a bit of a conversation with everyone, and then throw him under the bus.
But is Rodney's move also not smart for the fact that he's bided his time this long to be able to now finally say time to go after Mike, and then he's gone off for the blow up, but then he's kind of calmly sitting back and watching Mike still go on. Like it wasn't like a Will situation where Will he had to shut up. Like, and we're going to get to that. Like he should have stopped at a certain point, whereas Rodney, like. I think based on what we saw from the preview last week, it looked as though it was going to be like a Will blowing up a little bit, and it was Rodney losing his shit completely. But Rodney only lost it quickly, and then he sat down and was like the 3 C's again. So, and
like you just said, it's interesting that he goes off, and Will's the one that calms him down. Like, it's all right, bro. Just sit down. Don't worry about it. And then obviously Will went off. Yeah,
I want to get Noah and Jared's thoughts, but I just sort of jump in the gun here. I loved it when, because after that confession, Rodney was sort of talking about getting Dan on side, and I love that little scene between Rodney and Dan's like all emotional, and Rodney's like, "I love you, bro," and it's like, "I love you too, man." Like I was like, "Aw, bromance in Nicaragua." Aw, Noah, that what we were just talking about.
Mike's kind of interesting because he's not like Dan, who Dan does stuff and doesn't realise he's done it and just goes along and keeps going. Like Mike always realises his mistakes and tries to fix them. But like when you said the timing was terrible, like you've got all this time in the world while you're out there. Why do you have to do it just with the letters? And he did apologise, which I'm sure people did accept, but it definitely didn't help the case with Dan and Sierra. Kind of built the case for Rodney, and Rodney used that perfectly. But I just wonder, obviously Mike's brain would have been going 100 miles an hour or 150 million or whatever his catchphrase was, but after the auction debacle he would have been like, oh shit. But do you not think that saying nothing would be better? Because then the core four would be voting for Mike, assuming, well, this is going to be a massive blindside. Mike sees nothing coming, and then they swoop in and take Rodney out. Well, if he makes reference to the core four, then aren't the four going to try and work out a way to maybe split the votes or be more cautious? And then, because they know that Mike knows they're trying to get...
Rodney in the core four didn't know that Mike knew.
Yeah, so he could have used that to his advantage and been more stealth, and while the core four might have been thinking that they were blindsiding Mike, in reality Mike would actually then in turn blindside them. But by letting everyone know that he knows about the core four, now they have 3 days to plan. Well, he knows, so he might use an idol, or he might do this, so what's our next plan B going to be, blah blah blah. So obviously you can weigh out the options, but I was thinking, and I think a lot of it was heat of the moment. That's kind of the theme of this episode, was heat of the moment and exhaustion. But I'm tending to think that just not even bringing it up, not even after the letters, not at all, and being more stealth maybe would have helped. I don't know.
Good point. Jared?
Yeah, I just don't think it really needed to be a public conversation. I just think it would have been a lot smarter to take sort of the people aside separately, talk to Sierra, then go talk to Dan and say, this is what happened earlier on. These four are sort of palling together, which is why I did whatever at the auction, because I wouldn't mind if you got the advantage, and it's great that you got it, but I just didn't want Carolyn getting it or whatever. I just think if he'd had those conversations privately, it would have made a lot more sense. Considering there was already 4 anyway, he couldn't sort of swing it to get the numbers his way. Like, the best he was looking at was like a split vote. Like it wasn't sort of clear turning everybody against one person. It was kind of more just dividing the tribe down the middle. Whereas I think if you're going to bring up something publicly to expose somebody, you really want to make sure that you can sort of swing all the other numbers to your side to sort of maybe gang up on one or two people.
It was fascinating, and it was sort of like this, another Mike moment. I mean, it was very Mike-centric, this episode. I mean, he had 8 confessionals, which, I mean, he's leading quite comfortably now. He's 47.
He's 1 away in Tyson's winning game.
That's incredible. Rodney's on 40, Shirin's 29, Carolyn 27, Dan 21, Will 17, Tyler 17, Sierra, who's that? She was on... No, they've typed it there. She was on Blood vs. Water and Token Chains, so I don't know what they've written there. So anyway, I loved when they're reading the letters, and I love Shirin. My boyfriend drew pictures. I wanted to see the pictures. Like, why couldn't we see what pictures her boyfriend drew? So,
I love Jen's doll.
Yeah.
I wanted to pat that doll.
Yes. Then we get Dan. He undoes his advantage and
didn't know where you were going with that one there.
Undid his zip. I mean, the worst kept secret for those who knew about the twist. But finally, we've got this big twist that has been so teased about this season. I quite like this twist, and I can kind of see where Jeff's getting at when he says it's something that they've wanted to do for a long time, because if you kind of think about it, like, this is a fairly obvious twist that they probably should have used a long time ago. I'm going to start with you, Jared, for once. The twist of having 2 votes. What do you think of this twist?
I don't mind it. I think it's something that doesn't give somebody too much power, but does sort of have the potential to change the game. I'm kind of interested to see... I suppose how it plays out, and also like how long it can be in play for. Like, does this not have an expiry and can just kind of be... Final 5? Okay.
That's what was in the secret scene.
I think... Secret scenes. Yeah, I think it's a good one. I think I would have potentially liked to have seen it come into play maybe early in the game. Like, it would be good to see somebody kind of like keep something like that the whole way through, or potentially, since they're on such small tribes, like it could have had like a major impact at the start, even at changing things up. So I think... Personally, I probably would have liked to have seen it earlier, but I still think that it's something that's not too overpowered to give somebody complete control of the game, but it can sort of sway people around and change things up.
Dylan's just said in the chat he wants to know which one of Jeff's buddies suggested it, Tyler Perry again. I'm going to call this the Rove...
The Mike Y idol.
I was going to say it's a Rove McManus idol, because they're good friends and we needed an Australian reference, but... Clearly no one's...
Well, didn't we have Luke Longley or something?
Yeah, well, look,
The Luke Longley idol.
Luke Longley sitting away somewhere in his home going, what the fuck, Survivor? I don't feel like somebody tapped him on the shoulder or something, like his very tall shoulder. I was like, hey, Luke, you were mentioned on Survivor the other day. And it's like, oh, that show's still around. We should get him on. Like the Luke Longley interview. So, Luke, you were loosely referenced in an episode of Survivor. Come on, Survivor Oz.
Final 5 questions, just a bit of fun to wrap up an already fun interview.
Question number 1. Which Michael Jordan moment do you think closely resembles Mike's blowout this season? Noah, the 2 votes, the Rove McManus idol. What do you think of it?
Yeah, well, Dylan makes a good point. It's a parchment.
It's a parchment, sorry. The Rove McManus parchment.
Yeah, well, people were ripping into it. Oh, why isn't it a medallion or thing? It's the freaking voting paper. That's the paper he uses. So hopefully he doesn't need to go to the toilet in the ocean again and run out of paper and uses his double vote to wipe his ass or something. But,
the brown shit parchment.
Can I use this, Jeff? Oh, no, you can't use it.
I've got a sloppy one, Jeff. Come on.
I'm still not sure if I like it or not. It definitely seems kind of fan fiction-y. Like, it seems like someone would write a story with this twist in it and not be the actual TV show Survivor. It just seems a bit, really? But I don't hate it, but like Jared said, maybe a bit early, or maybe this season they say, alright, this season the idol rules are different. Every single idol gives, rather than saves you from the vote, it gives you an extra vote, and you need to pick when to use it. Like, so Carolyn would have one, Mike would have one, Dan would have one. Maybe that would have been a better idea, just to change all the idols this season. But I I guess we can't really say for sure until it plays out. Will Dan be blindsided? Then it will never come into play. So it's hard to tell from now, but I'm very cautious. But I'm open to it. It's better than the Tyler Perry, and I am glad that Dan got it, because initially I'm like, wow, Dan got it, really? But on further thought, if Mike got it, he's already kind of in control of one alliance. Rodney's in control kind of another one. Carolyn's up there. Dan's the middleman, which kind of makes this twist twice as exciting, because we don't know which way he's going to flip, and I think it's probably the best person to get the idol, and he was pretty funny with the parchment as well.
Well, he said,
I was happy with Dan.
Well, he said that he's a swing vote that's his worst nightmare, so...
Yeah, plus he's got this double vote, so I think that was probably the best person to get it, even though I personally wouldn't have wanted him to get it. I would have preferred Rodney or Carolyn, but yeah, I thought it was a good...
I wonder if it's going to be like when the Hidden Idol was first brought in Guatemala, and we were all like, oh yeah, that's, interesting, that could work out well, and then we obviously haven't seen the end of it since. You wonder if this will be like, the next Hidden Idol, we'll get this for the future ones. But Jared...
I don't think so.
Jared, you brought it up, it's a good point in the chat, because obviously we should explain a little bit how Jeff said it works, and how Dan said it works when he read on the parchment. So basically, if I'm understanding it correctly, that Dan would go and vote as per normal. Then as Jeff goes to get the urn, he has to then say,
"Yeah, that is all."
Jeff, I'm excited.
Hold up,
I'm gonna let you finish. I'm happy that you're gonna read the votes, but I've got another vote, and Beyonce had the best music clip of all time. Whatever, that joke fell flat. Thanks, Kanye West. But
should have just went with hold up.
Should have, but so does I don't get how...
It should be that Dan goes up as normal, he hides his parchment in his manties or whatever, and he puts 2 parchments in the jar, and it should be that no one even knows about the twist. He shouldn't even have to make it known. It should be stealth again. And then Jeff reads out the votes. He's like, what the fuck? There's 8 votes here?
Who the fuck counted these, production?
Yeah, why is there 2 votes? And then maybe they reveal a twist has been used or something. But I reckon it should be more that Dan just casts it twice and saves a bit of airtime as well.
So Jeff goes to get the urn. He has to go hold up, bro, I want to do my other vote. So does then he have to go back up to the parchment to write it? Or does he just get a notepad out of his pocket and writes and hands it to Jeff?
You would have to, I reckon.
It's interesting. I hope we see it. Again, it's a wasted thing if we don't get to see it. Cable.
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I was a bit like Jared. I'm surprised they haven't used this earlier. I can't believe it's season 30. They've waited, and I think you did say that production had thought about it for a while, and this was the first time they've obviously brought it in. Just a couple of points on it. I did like the display case that came in, and it looked awesome for television, but I think just for, and we'll discuss it later, obviously Tyler or someone going through his bag, him having this massive big wooden case for it, I think is the most stupid fucking thing of all time. How is that supposed to be discreet? I just don't understand that. That I think stupid, or maybe it's stupid that Dan doesn't get rid of it. But I think I was confused too, because when I think you tagged me in the link when obviously there was a couple of days ago the spoiler was out that Jeff talked about this new twist. I thought the same thing as what Noel was saying, that this person, whoever would have this extra vote, would go up and just do 2 votes at the same time, put them in the urn, and then all of a sudden have that, everyone have that shocked look like, hang on, there's too many votes now. What the fuck just happened kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like the whole, wait up, Jeff. Can I give it an extra vote now? I don't know if I like that. I'd rather have it as Noel's been saying all night, #stealth. I'd rather him do it that way.
It's it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I like Noah, your idea that you'd write a name on 2 different sides of the parchment. That would be funny. But we'll see how it plays out. And of course, I thought he was going to use it this episode. I thought he was going to side with Mike and use it.
Yeah.
There, but of course next.
Yeah, they were building up like bring the popcorn. This is going to be the epicest struggle ever. Like I was surprised it wasn't you.
And then next week, of course, we saw the teaser that Tyler finds it. Of course, Tyler and idols and parchments, whatever.
I'd love it if he opened the case and it was just all beef jerky that Dan stored in the case.
I saw Dan put some
beef jerky case.
Okay, so we should, of course, mention a little incident that happened with Will and Shirin. Now, of course, Will told the truth about the rations that he was given. It was kind of similar at the start of the season, wasn't it? When, was it White Collar that told the truth? And they got accused of lying?
No, blue collar.
Sorry, thank you. Because White Collar, of course, with White
Collar was the neutral box.
Yeah, no, that's right. Now, first question.
Was that foreshadowing from Sierra? Sorry to interrupt.
I was just going to say, I'll say first question. I'll put this as a two-part question, Cable. If you were playing Survivor and Will said that to you, would you believe him? And the second part of that question, what was your take on the little incident between Mr. Will and Ms. Shirin?
Well, I'm going to go one step back because I forgot to mention about Dan. He gave a Willy Wonka reference and a golden ticket.
Yes.
And I can't believe not one of us mentioned that. I thought that was pretty cool. But for me, a golden ticket would have taken him straight to the finals.
Could we have just not had, can somebody re-edit that with the Oompa Loompa music in the background? Like,
yeah.
Oompa Loompa dee.
Was that supposed to be a pun? Willy Wonka.
I think Will did a very generous and good thing, and I think it brings goodwill. I think he's that kind of guy anyway. I think, like he just does say later on in the episode, I think he said at Tribal that he doesn't really like everyone, but he, as a team and a tri-mate, he would do that. And then obviously the outburst was, I don't even know who brought it up. Was it Mike or Jen that said, I think Mike started planting the seed saying, there must have been something else. There must have been a clue or more food or this and that. And then obviously Shirin's got hold of that as well. And unfortunately, she was the only one at camp when Will found out about it. And yeah, things just went a bit chaotic. We were speaking just off air before we started recording. I totally agree from where Will came from. Though I think he did step over the line in the end. But having said that, I mean, we forget sometimes that they've, water deprived, dehydrated, food deprived, haven't seen their family, and there are probably things that, just push you to the brink. And again, I think you cross personal lines, but again, we're not there. We're not, starving and upset.
I'm starving here, bro.
But I did love that when he called Mike a bitch and he goes, I didn't stutter.
Say what, bro?
Did I stutter?
Did I stutter line is always going to be a great one.
Will went a little bit too far. There was a moment there where it's just like, Will, stop. Just stop. But I did love that line when he called him a bitch. He's like, say what, bro? I didn't stutter.
Yeah, well, that bit wasn't personal lines or anything. The bitch bit was definitely the more tame part of the argument.
I mean, he full on, basically, saying nobody loves Shirin, and what is that, there's not somebody in America right now who is missing you. Well, maybe somebody in Australia. Hi, Shirin, we miss you. I didn't know Shirin when I was filming, whatever. But yeah, Jared, Will, did it go a little bit too far?
Yeah, I think he definitely crossed the line. I think the thing that kind of really annoyed me was the fact that Shirin just got this whole brunt of this thing, and she kind of seemed like the person who was the least part of it. She was sort of sitting with them agreeing, but Mike brought it up, and then Jen was kind of agreeing with, oh yeah, that was probably something else, and then it just turned into this whole thing just on Shirin, and then Mike and Jen kind of just got off scot-free from what we saw. So I do think that he took it too far. I think he had a right to call people out for not trusting him. Yeah. But I mean, I think anybody in that situation, especially with the way the game started, you're going to be thinking that there was probably something else part of his reward. If I was there, I would probably be thinking the same. There may have been something else, and I have to sort of be careful about that. But I do think that he just went a bit crazy, and I do think that's probably to do with sort of how long they'd been out there and how he was feeling.
Noah, I'd like to hear with your thoughts, because I know you've seen some of the social media reaction against Will as well with that. So not only tell us your thoughts on this whole situation, but sort of let us know kind of how social media's reacted to Will after this episode.
Well, not to make light of the whole situation, but we were totally robbed of a violated, humiliated, and totally spent Jeff. Wasn't sort of Jeff, but yeah, that's 18 seasons ago or whatever. Went bad.
It happened in Panama. Okay.
Yeah, so...
Shit, I must have missed Sue Hawk on Panama.
Melinda. Hashtag commentary. Alright, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think Will was totally in the right to go up to, not just Shireen, it wasn't Shireen, but maybe the gossip got back to him that it was Shireen saying this stuff. I think he was totally in the right to be doing that, and to call her out, and even saying no one likes you in the game, that's fine. But yeah, he definitely took it too far with the no one likes you, no one's missing you, and then obviously we found out about Shireen's past, so I still like Will, but I think that was way over the line. In some slight defence, if you can defend him, I don't think he knew about the domestic violence, but it's still quite mean to say no one's missing you when you're out there for 30 days, probably wanting to be home more than anything, so it was a bit too far, and Will just confirmed, I said 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that Will's not winning the game, and you all laughed at me. I think this confirms for sure that Will isn't winning the game, so that was a bit disappointing. But at the same time, on social media, people are calling Will a terrible human being, tweeting at him, you're a despicable person, all this stuff. It was horrible, but I just don't. You
don't bully a bully with bullying. Like if we're calling this a bullying incident, which it was borderline bullying, I'll call it slightly that. I mean, bullying's a word, like many words now, that I think is used too loosely. But to go on social media and to directly message a person and then abuse them for them being abusive, like, it's a little bit different situation sitting on your keyboard abusing somebody if you're out in the middle of a Nicaraguan jungle after 30 odd days without food and your emotions are getting a bit on edge.
It's part of the reason why I've been a bit critical of this season and haven't been enjoying it as much, is because we had those despicable comments.
What was that sound?
I was just
taking off.
He just
had those despicable comments about Rodney and the women need to be up to standard. We had Dan comments, we have Will comments. This part of the season, this season just isn't as fun. Last season I thought was fun. I'm not completely ripping into this season. I love this episode, but yeah, it's just a lot of it is not fun with all this stuff they're leaving, and it's really harsh. So while I do think Will was in the wrong and said some horrible things, I don't think it's great to go onto Twitter and Facebook and tweet at him saying you're a terrible human being, making comment on his weight and that he's a useless human and all that. That's a bit too far.
It's an interesting situation with everything with social media this season. We're not going to get too tight into this because, we had that with Dan the other week and the whole thing with Shireen and everything like that. And, again, people can say things in the heat of the moment and, profusely apologising. Because, again, people in their worst situations are not thinking clearly. And I'm not excusing any sort of behaviour. But, from what I saw a lot of the exchanges on social media the other week against Dan, and the fact that everyone's labelling him a sexist and misogynist, and at the same time are calling him fat and referencing his man boobs, and just full on abusing him for no other reason. Two wrongs don't make a right, to use a very old saying. And again, Will at the time, I'm sure Will watches that, and now, and look, I don't know how much of a tweeter or a Facebooker he is. Like, I'm sure he's apologised and regrets what happened. But, like, again, you can't single out a person based on this. And, like, look, it's clear to me with a lot of this social media reaction. I mean, all these incidents are happening against Shireen, and Shireen's very popular amongst the fan community. And, of course, people have this notion in Survivor, if they've got these strong fan favourites, that they're going to highly defend and be negative against people who are against them. But, like, I'm kind of with you, Noah, in a lot of opinions on this season too, and it can be unfair in this way, but, like, I've avoided a lot of social media this season, not only because of my work situation and I just want to avoid spoilers, but to me this season has been a real downer social media wise in terms of the fans and the way things have been labelled against people and things, because people are so quick to just rip into people for things and just take things so literally and seriously. And as you said, Noah, it's taking a bit of fun out of it. And
even Carolyn is getting ripped into for not saying anything. Like, that's getting a bit of a strength.
It's just, I mean, this is a television show.
Yeah, and the comments, remember last week about Jacqueline and not having a uterus or someone attacked her because she voted Missy out or Baylor out or something. I don't know, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, look, again, this is a whole other episode, a whole other kettle of fish, we're getting sidetracked with it, but, like, I don't know, like, look, at the end of the day, what Will said went too far. Yes, it did. Again, what you said, Noah, he probably didn't know about Shireen's past. That's not an excuse. However, you know, like, I don't think it's fair to judge him based on that, like, that he was doing it because of a past and all that sort of stuff. It was a tricky situation, nearly a sticky situation. Hello, Baylor.
Honey in my head.
Oh, don't we?
I think Catherine puts it pretty well in the comments that you judge Will's behaviour, not Will himself. Like, he's not a terrible human being, but he has said some terrible behaviour.
Go, Cable.
Well, there's two other things about this incident that sort of look. I think we all agree. Will did step over that line where I think he got when he was talking about back home and your family and you got no family, this and that. I'm not condoning what he said, but the other thing you have to wonder though, how did he know all this stuff? Maybe she just bangs on about it all the time at camp as well. Like poor me, like Noah said a bit earlier. Maybe she does play up the victim role. Like, how is he so in tune of her situation at home that he knew what to say? I feel like, well, maybe she just goes on and on about it, and they're probably sick of hearing it. Maybe a bit like whistling the theme of Survivor and all that sort of stuff. Again, I'm not saying she deserved it, but
I understand that, and yeah, I get that you'd hit a personal chord. But I mean, again, like, I mean, what he said wasn't. It's not like he said like your father left when you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it was a fairly generic, very over the line comment. I could easily say that to somebody. I say it to Noah all the time because I mean, fuck, he's just a shit. But like, it's you know.
The other thing I was going to say though, Mike was the main instigator of the whole situation anyway. When he did come in, okay, there was the bitch comment and, you know, the stuttering comment, but really, Mike came and almost slinked in, tried to grab Shireen out and didn't even deal with it. Like, kind of, he was like wanting to get out of there. And I'm like, well, maybe you should have stepped up and actually put Will back in his place or said, you know, lay off Shireen, it's my fault. I said this comment or whatever, but, you know, he's in damage control at the moment, so he probably thought...
Like, again, I'm not trying to defend Will's actions one bit, don't misinterpret it as that, but at the same time, they accused him of this whole stealing the food, and it wasn't just Shireen, and then he rightly got angry, and she's just sitting there, oh, don't do that to me, blah, 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 which maybe prompted him to go even further, and that's where he got out of the thing, but I would have said that Mike, Shireen and Jem were in the wrong to start with, but then, Will just took it to the next level.
Yes, indeed. All right. So that happened. Jen wants to stick around and fuck up people's game at that point. No,
because things were getting too personal, apparently.
Noah, you love that comment.
Shall I leave that for the end or no?
I'll leave it for the end. We'll talk about Jen. I mean, we're going to get over some of these things pretty quickly here because we're nearly at the hour mark. But, the immunity challenge, it was obvious Mike was going to win. He did win. It was an interesting challenge.
Huh? Raise hand, Shireen.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Oh,
well, that was before the challenge.
I'm getting there. Hang on.
I was gonna say what I found interesting was this whole cave that they were sitting in that we've never seen all season. That Mike and Shireen and Jen all of a sudden were hiding in this cave and having a convo. I'm like, where the hell did this cave come from?
Production was having it fumigated, and the tent went away. I was gonna say, pretty interesting challenge. Mike wins, but of course beforehand. Literally we had this little interesting moment when Will kind of said he would step out to, give them all a chance if he could get his letter. I first initially thought that he was feeling incredibly guilty for what he said. And I thought at one moment he was going to quit. I was like, he's going to step out and quit. But it was Shireen raising a hand and the whole situation. Jared, I haven't heard your voice in about 5 minutes. What was your take on Shireen putting a hand up and sort of Will's offer in that whole situation?
As a game move, I think obviously that was probably a stupid thing to do. Just read the social game and jury votes, even though, fair enough, sort of people have mentioned hating her in her confessional, so it may not have made a difference. But the whole thing just annoyed me that he was even sort of given the chance at his letter. I hate this whole kind of... Even the fact that they all got letters at the auction, I just think, I don't know. Stop trying to, make everybody feel good and whatever. Too bad. Hand out one letter and then, no, you weren't in the auction. You can't let it get your letter. So I do think she sort of had a point in that sense.
This isn't the Treaty of Versailles. We're not all around a table trying to make deals and shit, and spread things out evenly. This is Survivor, and... these are moments when I can understand, players from the first 10 seasons, bitching about new Survivor. When we played, we didn't have this. It's like Grandpa sitting in the corner. Back when I was a boy, we used to respect our elders.
That was a good impersonation.
Thank you, Cable. I do practice my old person quite a lot. Noah, the whole situation, hand raising and all that jazz.
I'm a bit icky on that whole thing because we can bitch about it, but Jeff Probst maintains that these people make their own world and that they make the rules. He sticks by that, so...
Train's coming through.
That obviously... Yes, I apologise. That obviously extends to making barters and that. And we can look back to season 2 where Jeff made a trade. Obviously their situation was pretty bad, they had a massive flood, but Jeff still made a trade then. And Nicaragua, their tent thing burnt down, but there was no trade there, so I don't know about the whole old thing. But the raising hand on the whole raising of the hand, I think was a complete emotional thing, and I can definitely see why she did it. She was upset, and I would be upset too if someone said that. So I see that. But strategic, if we're thinking purely cold-hearted game, it was a terrible move because she had basically lost Will's vote already, but this is almost guarantees 99% that Will does not vote for her at the end, just considering no one else put their hand up. So that's obviously the backseat watcher of this show, watching from my couch, but it's just... If she wants to win, that was a terrible move, but this was definitely, personally, I don't think it was a strategic move. I think it was just an emotional thing after all that she had gone through with Will earlier.
Caleb?
There's a couple of things I was thinking. I actually thought at the time, I thought you were maybe going to say it as well, when Will started talking and he obviously had a bad day, had a bad moment, I honestly thought he was going to ask about the letter, but I actually thought he was firstly going to apologise to Shireen and saying, look, I stepped over the mark, I've had a bad day, I didn't like being accused, and I was jealous you guys all had letters. And I thought he was going to play it that way and that everything would be happy, but obviously there was no apology, and Jeff obviously let it, and I sort of thought the way the camera just sat there and sat there, like, she's going to put her hand up here. The only other thing I kind of thought was a little bit funny, no disrespect to Will, but he hasn't been a challenge beast per se. So him sitting out wasn't like a massive thing for them. See, if that had been a Mike or a Joe asking that, I can almost understand everyone going, yeah, let's not put our hands up. Let him sit out the challenge and have his loved one letter because he might actually lose. So I'm like, him sitting out, I don't know, it wasn't an advantage so much for the rest of the group, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. We could have had a Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, well.
Do we not have that set up this week, Cable?
You imagine if he had fell off the teeter top, then he would have, they would have put the...
Can I just say, to all our Americans listening, teeter-totter, love it.
We call it seesaw, don't we?
We do. So yeah, unsurprisingly, Mike. There we go. Thank you.
Always so delayed.
Will wins. Will doesn't win. Mike wins.
What?
Sorry, I was watching the alternate. I was watching the different version you guys didn't see. Will gives the quote.
That would have been great if they said, if Shireen put her hand up and then Will won the challenge. That would have been the most perfect way.
Will could have done the happy dance, as we saw. Yeah, Will gives the quote. That's what I was looking at, because I was reading here. Will, bring the popcorn, baby. It's going to be the best tribal ever. I like that line. So we had the happy dance. They wanted to target Shireen, but then they said Jen, because she's a threat. We get all this talk that Mike trying to sway Dan over there. Did you know that Mike is blue strong, everybody? That he's blue.
That was a good speech. I'm like, oh, Dan's definitely flipping, because he was really...
Yeah, I agree.
Pulling off all the stops there.
I'm telling you now, when we eventually get up to Worlds Apart with our mega mixes, we can clearly see that Mike's song will be I'm blue, anyway. Thanks, Ben.
Yes.
So
yeah, it was pretty persuading, and we know that Dan's kind of easily influenced. So I'm like, this is the point where Dan flipped back, because it was a pretty good speech.
Yeah, I was taken by it. I'm with you there. I thought Dan. That's why I thought he was going to use the 2 votes. And yeah, so we get to Tribal Council. It was a very entertaining Tribal Council. Was it Will who said that he was 150 million% and then he exploded? Was that his exact quote? I wanted him to do a TED quote, 150 to 200% certain, and I exploded. And then Sheridan obviously lost it. And then I loved Will. I was personally attacked. I didn't personally attack you. And then, Sheridan's basically labeling, reading out everything personal that he said. And then Will's just sitting there in the background going, "That's true though. That's true though." He's just said he didn't verbally attack her, and then she's saying the things he said, and then he continues to verbally attack her.
He has zero chance of winning this.
But he was stating the facts, wasn't he? Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Yeah. It was funny.
Come on.
And then so then we had Rodney getting a bit of emotional moment there, yelling, and he did his Mike impersonation in front of Mike this time, which was good. And then we had the vote, and in the end it was Jen who went home. And Noah, we got a Colleen reference there.
Yeah, I love that. Colleen's not my favourite survivor, but I loved that when she left, she referenced Colleen. That was awesome. That's the kind of reference I want, not a really obvious one from Max and Shireen, just these subtle kind of ones. I like them.
Like our subtle Tarzan reference at the start of the season.
Yeah. I still love that one.
I really hope that next week, when somebody gets voted out, we'll get the "I feel violated, humiliated, and totally..." Damn!
Chicken reference.
You get to milk your own milk, apparently. Oh, God.
It's just going to get to the point where they're quoting things that make no sense, just to quote, like, "My mom needs to go." What?
Yes, and we'll get
that would be during the loved one.
We'll get that famous Dan Lou quote. It's Dan Lou.
They're just going to be quoting things that do not fit at all.
Oh, goodness. All right, Jen. Let's talk about Jen, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Jared, Jen.
I don't know. It kind of all ended up on a real sour note with Jen. I wasn't upset to see her go. I didn't particularly like her throughout the season anyway, but then things just sort of turned really bad, sort of the last 2 episodes, and just the fact that they didn't kind of even bring up the notion of Shireen and Mike just voting out Jen. I think it was obvious that she asked them to get rid of her and she still wanted to go, so nothing had changed, even though they sort of tried to make it look that way. She was still ready to just get out of there.
I was thinking that Carolyn was going and was sort of like going to be a Jeremy blindside from last season when they showed that Carolyn vote. I'm thinking it was just going to go like Carolyn, but clearly I was wrong. Noah, Miss Jen.
Yeah, I agree that I thought Carolyn might go, only because I thought Dan would flip. But, yeah, Jen. Oh, Jen. I kind of talked about a few weeks ago how I was running behind the Jen train, trying to jump on the carriage. I've given up. I've gone to the nearby diner and just got a hammer because I'm off the Jen train. And I appreciate her early game, like she was entertaining.
Bless you.
But people constantly bitch, like Survivor fans, how, oh, this person doesn't know how to play the game, like Keith sucks, he's just going to screw everything up in the game, he doesn't know how to play. Well, Jen theoretically knows how to play, and then she still admits she's going to screw everything up in the game. I don't want that person in my viewing experience of Survivor knowingly going to just screw up everything in the game because she's bored and wants to have fun. Like, that just spoiled party pooper, I think. So, I was off the Jen train. I was very upset she gave up, and I still kind of like her, but I was not sad to see her go. I'm glad that we just got her out of the way so that she didn't screw anything up in the future, but I just find it interesting. She got such a massive edit for... I'm not going to call her a quitter. I don't think she is a quitter. She justifies it pretty well in her Ponderosa video of why she's not a quitter. But interesting that she got such a huge edit for someone who just fizzled out. So I'm more sad to see that she turned into that than to see her go. But I was not upset by this at all. I'm very happy, and I don't think we should see her as a returning player, to be honest.
I love Jen. Love her to bits. She was one of my favourites this season, but she really disappointed me in her final couple of weeks. I thought she was clearly going to win this season for many weeks, but yeah, sad to see her go.
Just that damn line about, oh, I'm going to screw everything up. I was gone completely.
And people suck so much. They suck. They suck. Anyway, Cable, Jen.
Yeah, look, you know that I was a massive fan of Jen too, and especially in the first couple of weeks, I was putting up photos and saying, I love the way she plays the game, and she doesn't really care too much, and she says what she likes, and yeah, does that and surfs and stuff. But exactly what you just said. I think the last 2 weeks she really did fizzle out, and she became a non-entity. Didn't seem to be interested in the game. I actually found the dynamic of, obviously the Mike situation, trying to get Dan back on side and maybe Sierra, but all of a sudden Mike and Jen, Jen didn't like Mike, and all of a sudden those three and Sharina sort of this new small alliance trying to fight for their lives. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? 1 minute,
Nope. Have we lost Cable?
1 minute you're talking, 1 minute you're going.
No, I just dropped out. No, it actually dropped out. Yep, I'm back.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm back. I just thought it was really interesting, the dynamic at the end that Jen and Mike were kind of working together. But it's been a disappointing finish to Jen's season, I think.
Yeah, would you like to see her back, Cable?
Look, there's a part of me from the confessional side and the entertainment side. Yeah, hell yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you have her back? But the fear would be, is she going to actually play? If things aren't going her way, is she going to sort of just pull the pin again? You don't want that. I don't know if Probst and crew would take a risk on someone potentially like that, especially after Colton. So,
well, yeah.
Well, assuming that's all true that he quit, but you know what I'm saying.
He didn't quit.
Yeah, well, look, I don't know the full story.
Well, he did the second time.
Well, he did the second time, but the first time he didn't quit. Anyway, I'm not getting into that again. Bye-bye, Jen. She joins the jury. So our jury is entirely no collars.
Will Will go next?
Possibly. You've got a question for us, Noah, though, before we get into our final part.
Yeah, I'm now convinced after this episode, I think this was a very defining and turning point. I'm now convinced in this season that it boils down to two possible winners, and that's Mike, the most likely, and Rodney. I just don't see many situations where anyone else wins this game. I mean, Sierra is definitely not winning, Dan is not winning, Will is not winning, Carolyn, she started out great and I still love her, she's my favourite of the season, but she's kind of not a part of the story and she's kind of in the background. Tyler, like, I like him, but he's kind of no storyline and he's barely in it, he's kind of just in the background. So I feel like it only comes down to Mike or Rodney, and Mike is the more obvious because of all his inspirational things, and we've seen him in game mode, and he's still got the idol, he could come back, he could swing Dan back over. I feel like Mike is the obvious winner, and it could happen. But also Rodney, I feel like 5 weeks ago we were saying Rodney can't win this game. So, but I feel like he's kind of turned around, and he is being shown in a pretty negative light, but I feel like Rodney, in the right circumstances, could pull this win. And I wonder if anyone else agrees with me that we're down to two possible candidates, with a few exceptions. Maybe Shireen might pull something just, but yeah, I think it's down to two people for the win, more than likely. Am I wrong?
You know what's...
Disagree.
You know, well, I'll go to you, Cable, but I just want to say, like... Yep. I love the fact that we had the 20s on a couple of weeks ago, they both clearly said Rodney was going to win this game, and then the week before, Richard Hatch was like, there is no way in hell that Rodney's winning this game. And when I said to him, like, what would you do if Rodney would win this game? And he's like, well, Rodney's not winning this game, don't be stupid, I don't have to do anything.
We'll have to get him back on if he does.
So, Richard, let's play this clip back to you, what you said.
Well, that's probably not helping with the whole not sucking up to guests kind of thing, but that's another story.
Cable.
Look, I sort of see what Noah's trying to say. Mike's getting a big edit. He's obviously got a few things up his sleeve. He's got an idol. If he can get Dan on side, they've got an extra vote. I don't know why, but all last week after last week's episode and leading to this week, I was starting to have a feeling about Shireen, and like she was a massive dark horse, but I don't know. I reckon she's a real big smoke eater. If she gets to the end, depending on who she's with, very good chance of winning. But I'm sort of with Noah. I think Rodney and Mike are definitely probably the two favourites if we were going to open a betting agency. You'd probably have. Well, probably could, but I think they'd be up there. But even looking that little bit forward to next episode, I think even Tyler and Carolyn, we forget Carolyn's still got an idol. I know she hasn't had a massive edit, but a bit like Natalie last season, she could maybe have the next couple of weeks have a massive edit. And with Tyler finding out about obviously the extra vote and all that sort of stuff, you never know that all of a sudden those two might leapfrog up to the front of the queue. So I still think it's a bit open.
I kind of agree with what you're saying about Shireen, but you said she has a strong chance of winning. I completely disagree with that because...
Oh, no. I mean, depending on who she's with.
Well, she is not... She would have to be with Dan and Will or Rodney because she is not getting Dan's vote. That's guaranteed. She's definitely not getting Will's vote and more than likely not getting Rodney's votes. That's 3 out of 8 of the jury, so that's cutting it fine on... That means she'd have to get every other vote of the jury. No.
I want to step in here quickly, Sharon. I'm going to get your thoughts. I'm not ignoring you. I mean, you mentioned Natalie, how she kind of... It was this point last season when Natalie started to swing into gear. But
I feel like she was still a part of the story, though, unlike Tyler.
Yeah, I can see that. But, if you, again, based on confessionals, yes, confessionals aren't everything. We know that. But, up until this point, Natalie had only had 12 confessionals. It was this episode she got 6 last season. And then the last 5 episodes she got 6, 5, 10, 4, 9. So up at this episode, up at episode 10 on Salman Del Sur, Natalie had 18 confessionals. She ended up with 46. Now, if we look at who's had 18, Everybody, with the exception of Tyler and Sierra and Will. So Sierra's had 13, Tyler's had 17, Will's had 17. So Dan's had 21, Carolyn's had 27, Sharon 29, 40 to Rodney 47. So if you've judged on the Natalie factor, like you said, Cable, Carolyn's had 27, so she's well ahead of where Natalie was last season.
I don't think it's a good comparison, though, because we had the Josh and the Jeremy who had massive edit,
but
and
aren't
they
we
were
having
gone
the Rodney and
at this
Mike
point.
show in a way now?
Yeah, but they're still here, though. Josh and Jeremy had gone, and then that's when other people came out. But Rodney and Mike are both still here, so I don't think it's a really strong comparison.
Okay, Jared, your take on Noah's initial question, that only Mike and Rodney can win?
It's hard to say. I'm not particularly good at predicting things.
Really? You don't say?
No. I have a feeling about Sharon at the moment. I just think that the three people on the jury would think about voting for her at the moment. So, I mean, I kind of feel like she already has 3 potential votes, depending on who she's sitting with, of course. But I feel like those people wouldn't discount voting for her. So I do think that she still has a chance. And just sort of the way that everything's being shown and sort of the fact that I agree that they're showing plenty of stuff about people like Sharon's annoying, blah, blah, blah. But then I think it's kind of tending to make the audience sort of feel sorry for her and want her to do well. And she's sort of turning into this sort of underdog character that I think could potentially come through and pull out the win.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. It's, again, props to the editors that... I mean, yeah, okay, you'd argue Mike's getting the obvious winner's edit. I can see that. But, like, if Mike doesn't win, then, again, it's props to the editors because they've kept it sort of open and we haven't really had super obvious winner. All right, final questions, wrap-ups and all that sort of stuff. Now, in terms of our predictions... and sweep. Sorry, Andrew Shadowlock, the Sierra of Survivor Oz. We do love you, Andrew. I always say that. I'm like, I give him, oh, he's so invisible, we don't know who he is. We do love you, though, Andrew.
Just had a top 10 this one.
He did. Good. That was a good top 10. Andrew, well done. I'm glad we got a Katie Collins braces picture in there. So he's gone. So remaining, no, you're still there. Carolyn, well, I mean, you've got a couple more weeks till she finishes 5th, don't you?
She's 5th.
Yeah, she's 5th. So other than that, nobody else in the line has got anybody. So Nick's got Dan, Jimmy. Fuck off, Jimmy! Stop winning. Got Mike.
You're fucking mate, Jimmy.
Jimmy wins every time.
He makes such a good video this week of the Game of Thrones one, and then like
Jimmy just makes a living out of winning Survivor Oz sweeps.
Like, Jimmy, just stop it. Next,
he has to pay tax on his winnings.
Yeah.
Needs to pay tax on his Tim Town.
His Purple Kelly messages. Julian's still, like, if you look, we've got, what, 8 people left, and Julian's still got both his choices in there. So, Julian's on the money, literally. Alex with Shirin, Joppy's got Sierra. Hello, Joppy. And James has still got Will. Where there's a Will, there's a Will.
Bad week for James.
Okay, predictions time. How are you feeling this week, Jared?
I don't know, actually. I haven't sort of looked at my predictions for this, and I have no idea sort of where they are. I'm sure they're all over the place and wrong, but, I mean, we'll see.
All right, let's go through this. Julian put Jen in 12th. For those playing at home, Jen finished in 9th, if you didn't know. Julian said 12th, so he's closest. Paul said 3rd, not closest. Joppy said 2nd, not closest. Noah, you said 10th.
Ooh.
1 away. Rossi said 8th. You are equal with Rossi.
But then Jared gets it, doesn't he?
Jared said 15th. Not even close. I said...
Oh, no.
9th. 2 weeks in a row I've got it correct. Absolutely
well, no one else has it except for you, so it's rigged.
Well, that's true. I always rig it. So I move up into the lead with that. Thank you very much. 6 points for me. Paul's on 4. Noah, you're on 3. Joppy and Ross, you're on 2. Julian's on 1. And Jared, how many are you on again?
0, but I mean, that's good because I'm feeling a bit weird in the Amazing Race predictions. So I've got 2 points and it's just not right. So this is a bit more comfortable.
Leading in that one.
You're playing golf, Jared, I believe. You're going for the lowest score here.
Isn't that the plan?
Yes. Stick to the plan. So next week, 8th. Okay, well, I've got Haley next week, so I don't think I'm going to get double points next week, funnily enough. Noah, you have got Joe. I don't think you're getting double points either. Paul had put down Lindsay. Julian, does anyone have anybody left in the game? Julian said Vince. Jesus. Joppy said Joe. Rossi said Jen. Jared, you have got next week Vince. Oh, good luck there.
Everyone's screwed.
Well, in 7th you've got Max, and in 9th you've got Rodney. You've got a chance there, so who knows? So that's the predictions. Cable, who do you have? Oh wait, you weren't there. Never mind. All right, next week. What? The winner. Who's winning? No, we'll start with you, even though you've sort of already given us your answer.
Mike.
Cable.
I don't want to say Mike, so I'm going to say Carolyn.
Ty Carolyn.
No, Carolyn. Lock it in, Eddie. Carolyn.
Final answer. Doodaloo. Jared.
Shireen.
Dark Horse. Jared.
Tyler.
Noah.
Rodney.
Cable.
Shireen.
Who's going next week? Cable.
Sierra.
Jared.
Carolyn.
No.
I'm tending to think Mike, but I feel like something will shift again. But maybe let's say Dan, because he has the Rose McManus title.
Alrighty. Okay, hashtag for this episode of Survivor and hashtag for this episode of Survivor Oz. Noah, as you take off.
For the Oztopsy hashtag Luke Longley interview.
On your Oz Vision, apparently, according to Dylan.
And for the episode, there's a lot you can go with, but let's go with hashtag Will Fox.
Cable.
For the Survivor episode, I got 2. I got hashtag Willy Wonka Golden Ticket and hashtag Did I Stutter, Bro? And for this episode or podcast, I've got a mental blank, so I've got nothing.
Hashtag I've got a mental blank. I've got nothing. Cool.
Yeah.
Jared?
For the podcast, let's just go hashtag stick to the plan because good things will happen if it stays like that. And for the episode, hashtag best try will never.
Best you're funny. Okay, well that about closes out this Oztopsy. To everybody who joined us in the chat, Catherine as always, visitor, thank you, Dylan, and to all the others, thank you. On this line, I will say thank you, Noah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cable.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Now, just a few things before we close it out. I sort of touched on Jimmy's video. He did produce a very good, epically awesome Game of Thrones inspired video based on the challenges of Survivor. That is on our Facebook and our YouTube page. Check it out. This week's recapper will be none other than Troyzan Robinson from the 24th season of Survivor One World, our good friend, and great to have him back. Always got a lot to say on Survivor. And in light of recent events, he could be doing a bit of selling himself this episode. Hashtag vote Troyzan, maybe. Who knows? Maybe we might slip in a reference to that to see what he's allowed to say on air. But if you've got questions for Troyzan...
Who's Russell Swan? Is that a cool guy?
Okay, so Mike. Oh, I've never met him before. So yeah, send in the questions, either email it to us or contact us via social media. In terms of our odds, because each week I've been saying that for about a month and a half now that we're announcing them soon. I've got all the graphics and everything. I just need to put them up. So hopefully we'll be getting them soon, because voting will begin in, I think, like less than a month now for Oscars 2015. So shit, I better get onto it. And speaking of getting onto it, Noah and Jared, of course, Amazing Race Oz, still going strong. Noah, is Alex doing his job, is he, or?
Yeah, it was a double episode. Need extra time,
So
but
we'll
it will be up tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. And
4 episodes.
special little shameless plug here for another spin-off episode, which Cable is just can't stop listening to. It's Euros Vision. Started, the first episode's up.
Oh my god! Oh.
Are you telling me there's more than one episode?
Hashtag Boggy. What was our
hashtag better than Boggy?
Better than Boggy. That's where I forgot.
Which was this episode, boy.
Yeah, everything. I mean, Cable's hat is better than Boggy.
Wow.
So yeah. Anyway, we'll be back next week live, same time, same place. Thanks always for your support, listening live or listening via a recorded message. Remember, message or episode actually, it's not just a message. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Remember, you can leave us a rating on there if you like. More likely 1 star. Still better than Boggy. And of course, YouTube, we're on there. Stitcher. And plenty of other services. Survivors.com is the main port of call.
Your cover of Molly Sterling on YouTube?
Yes, absolutely. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and send us a carrier pigeon. Until next week, my name is Ben. The tribe has spoken. We'll speak to you next time on Survivor Oz with Blood and Damnation.